This episode of Life Club was recorded at a remote location, aka a place I call Tashima Jones Media. Please check out this installment as a video on tashimajones.com/TV. You can also listen here as we speak about true meditation. Enjoy. Welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in to Life Club with me, Tashima Jones. Super excited, as always, to have you here with me. Now, this form of bringing a Life Club to you is a little bit different because our radio station is currently having some downtime with all that is going on in the world we live in. But just like life, the show must go on. So I am bringing this to you straight from my Batcave, Tashima Jones Media. Today's topic is meditation. A state of meditation is when you focus on a thought until it becomes you or your reality. It is written on the tablet of your mind. It is fully knowing, aka experiencing the thought you once focused on. You gain a deeper understanding of what that thought or thing means and what it actually is. Everyone meditates every day, all day, because meditation is simply what you are thinking about. Now, the results of meditation is truly based on the nature of the thought. Anxiety and fear are products of meditating on negative thoughts. Peace and courage are products of meditating on meaningful, life-filled thoughts. The same is true for material objects, be it money, relationships, a home, etc. It's why meditation is closely associated with attraction. Last week, we spoke about the essence of who we truly are, and ultimately, you are what you know. And knowing is a product of thinking. We are and become what we think about because the issues of life flow from our minds, aka our heart. So let's dig right in. Now, y'all know I gotta read and lay that foundation before I start just going in. So I had to get that done. But our speaking points for today, of course, is one, meditation. The others are the source of where we allow our thoughts to come in or to come from, and the products of those thoughts. So once again, this concept of meditation, if you are an avid listener of Life Club, you know that meditation is what we chew on the inside of us. It is receiving a thought, which is a thing from the spirit world, and thinking about it, aka planting it as a seed in the womb of our mind and our heart, and meditating on it, chewing on it long enough until we not only have a fuller understanding of what that thing means, but we actually allow that thought to become our emotions. And we already know emotions are energy in motion, and what our emotions do is that they move us to act out in the natural world. So this concept of meditation is, of course, as old as time itself, and it's been spoken about a lot, especially a lot more previously in the Western world, but it is definitely a practice that has been around since the beginning of time. And I like to take it a step further and saying that it's a practice. It's really the default function of our mind. People speak about mindfulness and emptying one's mind, but an empty mind is similar to a heart not beating. It was created to create. It was created to receive thoughts from the spirit world and manifest them in the natural world. So oftentimes people get caught up or challenged by this concept of feeling as if they have to empty their minds or be so aware of the present moment that they're not thinking about anything. And that's fraud. That's simply not what the mind was created to do. And oftentimes that's the challenge, is trying to get our minds to act in a way in which it wasn't designed to do. So when we first are exposed to this concept of meditation, we have to understand what it is, because we know that when we know the definition of a thing, we are better equipped to using it properly. And the same truth is applied to this concept of meditation. So once again, to meditate on a thing is to basically allow a thought be implanted into our mind, aka our heart, and for us to really ponder that thought, to consider that thought, to look at that thought for what it is, to see what it means to us. And oftentimes we already know that every thought is not ours. We talked about in one episode how you can go to the supermarket for a dish and pick up all of the fruits and vegetables that are there, or you can choose the ones that are specific to the dish that you are actually making. So once we recognize that, number one, we are in control of our thoughts, and it's not necessarily controlling the thoughts that come to us. We are in control of choosing the thoughts that we meditate on. So when we really start to allow ourselves to practice, to execute, to exercise or employ our power to choose our thoughts, we are already one step closer to meditating properly. So once again, to meditate on a thing is to think on that thing long enough until it becomes you or your reality. And that first starts with you understanding your power to choose your thoughts. And that's where so many of us are thrown off, because we try to sit still and we try to focus and give our attention, aka energy, to what's going on within us. But if we do not realize our power and our free will to choose the thoughts that we meditate on, we will either be flooded with all types of randomness, or we won't even take the time to sit still and actually meditate. So that's the first step, is understanding your free will, aka your power to choose the thoughts that you think about. Yes. Oh, let's just take a seat out on that. It is so important, so vital for us to recognize that we have the power to choose our thoughts. And that leads me to our second point, our second speaking point of the day, and that is the source of our thoughts. If you are an avid listener of LifeClub, you would know that thoughts have been here long before us, and they will exist after us. We have to recognize that there is nothing new under the sun. There is no new knowledge or wisdom that's being created. The only thing that is happening is that we are exposing our thoughts or exposing ourselves to new thoughts that have already existed by this process of meditation. We have to understand that to manifest a thing is really having that thing being revealed to us through meditation. The thing is already there. The life you want is already available for you. But if you are oblivious to it being in existence, you will never see it. So this is why our meditation and the thoughts that we choose, aka the source that we choose our thoughts from, is so vital, is so important. Recognize that anxiety, fear, even sickness is a product of our meditation. I like to believe that people long ago who lived for hundreds of years didn't even know how to get sick, because that was not their meditation. It was something that they did not know about. And if they didn't know about it, they couldn't participate in it. So the source of our thoughts is so vital, it's so important. If you choose thoughts from a fear-based source, you are going to manifest fear first in your mind, then in your body, then in the five sensory realm. So you have to be careful about the source of which you are receiving thoughts from. once again, if you're an avid listener of Life Club, you would know that there's only two sources of our thoughts when you really consider and think about it. There is the source of life, and then there is the source of unproductivity, aka low vibrations, and all of those things that come along with things that are not springing forth life. So once again, there are only two sources of thought. There is the source of life, and then there is the source of unproductivity. Every single thought that comes to us is a result, or as a product, or a fruit, if you will, from those two trees. You have to understand that, because when you understand your power of free will to choose your thoughts, you also understand your power of free will to choose the source of which you choose those thoughts from. Yes, that felt really good. So when we are deciding on the thought that we are going to meditate on, we have to first choose the source. Remember, it is so key, so vital for you to understand that you have the power and authority to choose your own thoughts. And far too often, we don't recognize that. So we believe that any thought that comes to us has to be our own. And remember, our mind, aka our heart, is a womb. We create things. Thoughts are things, and they're like seeds. And once they are embedded into our mind, we have the power to nurture that thing until we give birth to it. That felt good. I hope it feels as good to you as it does to me. It is so important, so vital for us to recognize this power, to really be impregnated with a thought and meditate on it long enough to give birth to it. So you just gotta be mindful of who your baby's father or baby's mother is. Just imagine that. Imagine a thought being a potential child. You are going to hopefully choose wisely in who you decide to have a child with. The same is true for our thoughts. We have to be mindful of the source we receive our thoughts from, because it will produce fruit from that tree. And that's what I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into, how to choose your source. Remember, there's only two sources. There is the source of life, and there is the source that's opposite of life. And the way that we choose our thoughts is based on what those sources are prone to produce. Remember, if you plant apple seeds, hopefully you get apples. That is the goal. Thoughts do not morph into something else. They only take the form of what the seed was. So choosing your source is super important. And within each and every one of us, there is this inner guide, this inner being, this inner voice that is telling you in the way in which you should go. So sometimes people spend a lot of time on basically trying to convince other people of how they need to make decisions. I truly believe we all know right from wrong. There is this moral compass on the inside of us. And if that doesn't help, experience does. So if we've seen people make certain choices and we've seen the results of those choices, we find that we know better. So we're not going to spend too much time on trying to figure out if a source is right or wrong. We all know that. So the key in knowing the source is looking at the thought and thinking about what it may produce. If you are sowing apple seeds, you are looking to produce apples. The same is true if you want to produce healthy relationships or a healthy body or creating something that could change the world. Whatever seeds you sow, be sure that they are in alignment with what you want to produce. It is really that simple. So if you do not want to produce heartache and pain, do not accept thoughts from the source of heartache and pain. If you want to produce love and happiness, choose those thoughts that are founded or grounded in the source of life. I'm just going to give you the secret right there. Choose the source of life, because in it is everything that you pretty much want to experience. So now I wanted to speak about behavior. Oftentimes, people are acting literally out of their minds. They're behaving one way and thinking another way, or they're hoping one way but thinking another way. And when we do that, we are truly out of alignment. It's where confusion is birthed from. It's you acting this way or wanting this, but doing and believing and thinking that. You have to come into alignment with yourself, aka with your inner being. Your actions and what you speak and what you do have to be aligned with what you are thinking, what you are meditating on, and eventually what you know. So oftentimes people get stuck in this space of wanting a thing but not having that thing because their mind, their inner being, and their body are not acting in alignment with one another. One part of your body's on one block, your mind is on another, your heart is just in another random place. You have to seek alignment. You have to seek a position of being one with yourself. Oftentimes we're trying to get into relationships with people when we don't even have a full relationship with ourselves. We're trying to become one with another, yet we are discombobulated as an individual. Understand the importance of alignment. Understand the importance of aligning your mind, your body, and your behavior together so that you can have unity within yourself in order to really produce the things that you are seeking to produce. Remember, too many of us are looking for the fruit, and we are not looking for the seed to produce that fruit over and over and over again. And then oftentimes we continue to plant seeds from the bad fruit that we've already produced, and the cycle continues. Once again, you have to seek enlightenment on alignment. You have to recognize that if your mind is on one page and your body's on another, you're never going to get to the end of the story. You will continue this cycle of producing oftentimes some of the things that you don't want to produce. So once we recognize our power, aka our free will to choose a thought, we then understand that we also have the power to choose the source of those thoughts. And then once we receive that thought, we meditate on it, aka chew on it, extract all of the nutrients out of it until that thought becomes us. Now, I wanted to speak a little bit about a thought becoming us. I always go back to babies or toddlers. When you start to learn how to tie your shoe, it's first a foreign thought. It's a foreign concept. It's something that you learned about and you are practicing every day, learning how to tie your shoe. Eventually, it becomes you. It becomes something that is effortless. And the same is true for the thoughts that we meditate on. Once you receive a thought, that thought becomes you. It is ingrained in you, so much so that you are able to do it without thinking, aka being in the present moment. And that's truly what people may consider mindfulness, or just being aware and awake, just being aka woke in these spiritual streets. When you start to become one with your thoughts and you start to become one with your emotions, and you are literally moving as this spiritual entity in the five sensory realm, you are doing things effortlessly. You are producing things without even thinking about them. And truth be told, you've thought about them, and it's moved from a thought to an emotion, to a behavior, to your life. Ooh, let's just take a deep breath on that one. You have to recognize that the effortless life, aka that flow that we are seeking, starts as a thought. Let's just take a sea lot on that. It starts as a thought, and that thought becomes you, and then it becomes your reality. So as the thought moves from a thing in the spirit, We meditate on that thing until it becomes us, and then we manifest that thing in our reality. And I'm starting to gain a little bit more insight on this concept of manifestation. Sometimes I think, and perhaps I even thought this at one time or another, that people look at manifestation as if it's something that happens in plain sight. They look at manifestation as if it's this scientific thing that kind of happens right in front of us. Manifestation is the process of a thing being revealed. That's a good place to just take a selah. Manifestation is the process of a thing being revealed to us. So at some point, this thing was not clear to us in the five sensory realm. And we decided to use our superpowers as human beings to receive a thought that we deemed good, that we deemed filled with life and productivity, that we looked at this thought and said, you know what, I want to taste the fruit that is produced from this thought. So we meditated on that thought. We allowed that thought to become emotions, aka energy in motion, and that energy moved us to act and behave in such a way that we produced, we manifest, we aka allowed spirit to reveal to us in the five sensory realm. Oh, let's just take a selah on that. Manifestation is a process that first starts in the spirit. Remember, we always go back to that ultrasound. They are high frequency waves that we cannot hear with our five sensory self that produce an image. Whew, I hope you're just as amazed as I am about what it is that I'm speaking about. That thought, this high frequency thing that is unseen and unheard by our five sensory senses, is being planted on the inside of us. And we are taking part of this farming process of meditating on it until it becomes a form. Remember, the inner reality creates the outer form. My leg is going to sleep. This is the stuff that you don't see when I'm on the radio. So we take part in this birthing process, in this process of manifestation, to the point where we produce, aka this seed, this thought, this thing is revealed to us in the five sensory realm. So too many of us are running away from this process of meditation. We're running away from this process of giving birth to a thing because we want the thing to just pop up right before our eyes. And it just doesn't work like that. And it's really beneficial that our thoughts don't automatically manifest themselves, because if you are like me, there are some thoughts that you look back and are glad that did not produce fruit. So once again, we are speaking about this concept of meditation, what it is and what it isn't. Meditation is truly this state of thinking on a thought long enough until you produce it in the five sensory realm. It is so important, so vital for us to recognize our power of free will to choose the thoughts that we give birth to. And when we think about this process of meditation, we recognize that we are meditating on things all day, every day, because it is truly this process of thinking on a thing. And if we are expecting for our mind to be emptied of all thought, we are really asking it to do a thing that is not designed to do. Remember, for the mind to not create or think is similar to us expecting the heart not to beat, not to pump blood through our bodies. It's just not set up that way. So the most insightful thing to do is recognize that you have the power to choose your thoughts. and you have the power to meditate on the thoughts that you choose. And once you really get that on the inside of you, and I encourage you to meditate on that thought alone, this idea, this concept, this truth, this reality, that you have the power to choose your own thoughts. As you meditate on that, your life, your mental health and state of being will be so much different and so much more healthier when you recognize that truth. So now we receive a thought, we meditate on that thought, we behave as if that thought is our truth. And that in itself is a process, because as you consider a thought, as you ponder a thought, as you meditate on a thought, you start to become one with that thought, and you start to understand the depth of what that thought means, what it is, and eventually it moves you to manifest it first in your speech and then in your behavior. Remember, the first step of manifestation is speaking and writing. It is literally taking a thought from the invisible realm and manifesting it to your five senses. So when you speak a thing, you are able to hear it with your natural ear. And when you write a thing, you are able to see it with your natural eyes. And that's why those two things are so important. The power of our tongue. If you are an avid listener of Life Club, you would have learned that the tongue is a muscle. And I truly believe it is the strongest muscle that we have, because it is able to create a life. That's some good stuff right there. So we get a thought, we meditate on that thought becomes us first in our emotions and then in our behavior. And once that thought reaches our behavior, we should first start with our speech and the written word, because those are the first steps involved in manifesting anything. Take, for example, a woman who is with child. She has a seed on the inside of her. She recognizes that her body is acting a little differently. She takes a test, and then what happens next? She announces that she is with child. That's some good stuff. That is some good stuff. So she and the father-to-be announce that they have a child. And usually the next thing that arrives is that sonogram, that image, aka that written proof of the child that they are carrying. And the same is true for any fruit that you want to produce in your life, any fruit that you believe you are called to produce in your life. Once again, that seed is planted as a thought, aka a thing in the spirit world. It is implanted on the inside of you. You think about it, you meditate on it long enough that it moves you in your emotions, and then your emotions influence your behavior and pushes you to say a thing and to write a thing. And from there, the process continues until you wake up one day and you are living in that thought that once was simply spiritual material. Once again, if you are just tuning in, this is Life Club with me, Tashima Jones. Today we have been speaking about this process, this concept of meditation. You have to understand that meditation is simply the process of thinking on a thought. It is something that takes place all day, every day, not when you are simply sitting still, but when you're driving, when you're washing dishes, and when you are engaging in everyday activities. And to expect our mind to be empty of thought is just like expecting our heart not to beat and flow blood through our veins. So we have to first eradicate this disillusion or this concept of not thinking about a thing. Instead, what we have to recognize is our power of free will to choose the thoughts that we actually think on. And in doing so, we have to make sure that the source of our thoughts is the source of life. Those are a few takeaways that I hope you apply to your life today. Thank you so much for rocking with me on this installment of Life Club with me, Tashima Jones. All of my social media contact information, articles, videos, how to download my app, and how to join LifeClub can be found on tashimajones.com. Until next time, remember your greatness. Talk soon. I am Tashima Jones, and you've been listening to LifeClub. Thank you for tuning in.